Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this fabulous Friday of June 4th. I am Deb Burton, the founder and creator of RI Elder Info. We're a nonprofit here in North Scituate, Rhode Island, but we cover the entire state of Rhode Island. And I am the creator of RIElderInfo.com, the most comprehensive resource for seniors, caregivers, and professionals. But I think you already knew that because you've probably watched me on other Fridays. You have watched me on other Fridays, right? If you haven't, you have to take a moment to look back, but not right now because then you'll miss the show. Every Friday at 9 a.m., I go live where I interview different organizations from around the state and let people know the resources that are available and some really cool stuff that's happening. And for the month of June, something that is near and dear to my heart to spread the word about, I'm dedicating the month of June to raising awareness of elder abuse and reporting. And you think, maybe that doesn't sound like, cool topic. But this is one of those things that one day it could be you or I, and you really want to make sure that more people know what it looks like. Because statistics say 1 in 10 people over the age of 65 is a victim of elder abuse. And these videos get, give or take, 2,000 views a week, which the math is not my strong point, but the math on that, if 1 in 10 is a victim and I've got 2,000 viewers, obviously not everybody's over 65, but still, that would say that there would be 200 people who are victims of elder abuse. So it's really important to get the word out because we're all decent human beings and it's our responsibility to protect those who maybe need an extra set of eyes or maybe need a hand. So if you could hit the share button and hit the like button, because there's probably more likely than not somebody you know who needs the information that we're going to talk about today, who needs some safety and protection. Now, everything we do as a nonprofit is supported by our sponsors and our donors, and we really could not do our work without our donors and our sponsors. So feel free when you get a chance to go on RI Elder Info and just hit the donate button. Even a couple bucks makes a difference. But we also have our sponsors. So big shout out to Oak Street Health. They are a comprehensive primary care physician's practice. They are located in Warwick in the Christmas Tree Plaza. There are 2 in Providence. There is 1 in Woonsocket. We also are super excited to have Tamarisk Assisted Living. They're a great home-like assisted living located in Warwick over by the Lowe's and the Warwick Mall. Give Susan a call over there. She'll be happy to show you the place and let your loved one know that they are loved and cared for at Tamarisk Assisted Living. And our newest sponsor, super excited to have on board, is United Healthcare. So it is with their support that allows RI Elder Info to research information and get that out to the community. The actual doing, the behind the scenes doing of this video is through the generous work of D&B Media. Ben Barber works behind the scenes to make this all look good. And if you've seen the website or if you have seen any of the promotional information on social media, that is from the Magic of England studio. If you guys need a website built or any kind of design work, I strongly encourage you to reach out to Dave and Sal. So without further ado, I would like to bring on my guest, Jeanne Gattegno from The Haven. Welcome, Jeanne. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, especially at the beginning of June when we acknowledge World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I think that it's important, as you said, to bring the issue to the attention of the general public and to people who work with people so that we can work towards eliminating this problem.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, Jeanne, can you tell our viewers what is, let's start with the very basic. What is elder abuse?
Well, you know, elder abuse. Well, let me begin by saying, starting with World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. This is a day that was established about 15 or 16 years ago by the United Nations. It was established to promote a greater understanding about the meaning of abuse around the world. And when we think of the world, we've seen atrocities on television in front of us over and over again. But who would ever think that in America, here at home, we might also have some atrocities going on with our elders? It's also to acknowledge that elder abuse is a health problem and that we want to say out loud that we can't tolerate it as a society. Elder abuse results in shame, self-blame, depression.
Jeanne, would you like the PowerPoint to come up?
Yes, please.
There we go.
I'm not good at this, people. So
that's okay, because I kind of jumped ahead.
Okay. Well, that's the PowerPoint that I'm talking about.
There we go.
You know, it results in increased hospitalizations for older people. It results in increased admissions to nursing homes long before someone should be placed there, but because of the situation. And it even results in early death. That's why it's called a public health problem. You know, we talk about elder justice, and the name of my program is the St. Elizabeth Haven for Elder Justice. When we thought of a title for the program, we thought, well, the haven for abused elders, but that really is so negative. And what we really want to communicate is that what we do, we're working in a positive way, not in a negative way. So the haven was established and is now called the Haven for Elder Justice. Next slide, or the slide before that, the next two back, that one. You know, I wanted to talk about what elder justice means. Our job at the Haven and of the people I work with throughout the state really is to work towards keeping elders safe. But elder justice is so much more than that. We can only reduce and eliminate elder justice if we are able to hold perpetrators accountable. So elder justice is helping seniors, keeping them safe, protecting them. It's prosecuting people who do the abuse and looking at our social system and making the change necessary so that we can identify and address the issues of elder abuse. Next slide, please. The next one, before that one, that's right. The Haven was established in 2009, and it's built upon a model of shelter for abused elders that was started in New York. At this time, we're one of about 13 shelters nationally, but we were the third in the country to be established. We don't have a building. We don't have a site. It's not the way that we operate. What we have is we work within a long-term care system. And when someone comes to us who needs to be sheltered, we place them in a bed, either in a nursing home or an assisted living, wherever there is a spot, you know, a bed available. And they're there for 30 days. We're not an emergency shelter. We're a temporary shelter. So people are with us for about 30 days. And during that time, we work on safety planning, we do case management, and we begin talking about discharge from day one, because the question is, where does the elder go next? Where do they go to be safe?
And I
Um,
think, Jeanne, that's really, really important for people to understand is that when you're a victim in your home or in the home of someone who's supposed to be taking care of you, sometimes the perpetrator is the one who's also the one responsible for handling your medication or helping you get your food or washed and dressed and those kinds of things. So you really have to look at all the different pieces in order to keep someone safe. And so
Absolutely.
I think, if it were a particular building that individuals went to, um, I think I think it's a better idea that there are multiple locations that a victim may
Absolutely.
be housed at,
Right.
for their safety, for all
It,
the
it,
same reasons that other domestic violence providers have multiple shelters. I think it's really important for people to understand that,
right.
it is a safe place and it's
It is.
not just one place.
That's right. And it is safety first. It is very difficult for an abuser to locate the elder when they're within our system. The other benefit is that they're they're in a setting that is oriented to older people. There's 24-hour medical care. There's security. There's all of their meals are provided, and there are activities that they can participate in during the time that they're placed in our facility. Several of our clients have agreed or have wanted to stay after the 30 days. And other people have gone home, or in some sad cases, they've gone back to the abuser. But, we work very hard at maintaining an elder's safety, helping them to understand how to maintain their safety. In addition to the shelter, under our shelter work, we also work with victims. I hate to use that word, but victims who choose not to leave or who choose to remain in the community. Um, we don't turn our back on them, because the question for us is, now that we know about this individual, what do we do? And we work to do safety planning. We work to bring resources into homes. We work to help people transition from the abuses to other settings. Uh, so that's as important as the shelter work that we do. Older people have choice. Just because they may be in a horrific situation, it doesn't mean that we or anyone can make them leave. People have choice, but we feel we have a responsibility to address the safety issue. Um, in addition to the shelter program, a few years ago, the Haven took on a major grant from the Department of Justice, and it's a 3-year grant, and we are in the midst of developing a capacity to train law enforcement in the area of elder abuse, and direct service providers, people who work with agents, people who are clergy, so that they understand the dynamics of elder abuse, what it looks like, and how to help people. In addition to that, we've been able to bring together a large group of people from the community, from many, many communities, many pieces of the communities, to really begin the conversation about how do we make change, positive change, to address abuse in Rhode Island. We have a prosecutor, we have police, we have adult protective service workers, we have case managers, we have lawyers, we have a whole variety of people. So we're very proud, really very proud of what this community has done in the last 2.5 years to get where we are. We have implemented our direct service training. We had our first one last month, and we'll be carrying that out throughout the next 2 years. And we will begin our law enforcement training in the summer. And, our goals are to train at least 600 law enforcement people and really talk about institutionalizing that training in their training, in the annual training for police.
So, Jeanne, when you talk about training police and training community members, case management agencies, that kind of thing, I was young, but I remember in the 70s where domestic violence wasn't talked about. And there needed to be a lot of training around domestic violence. Is elder abuse in that same sphere, in that same scope as domestic violence was in the 70s?
It is. We're at the early stage. Could you put the slide up? That one. Thank you. Domestic violence was in our face because the police were called. The whole neighborhood would know when something was going on, the fighting, blah, 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 blah. And it was much more public. Elder abuse is actually called a silent epidemic. And that's because it's hidden, very well hidden by the elder or by the perpetrator. It tends to be happening in a person's home, in the privacy of their home, where no one else is there. And, elders, we all know, can become very isolated. Worlds change. I'm in my 70s. The world changes as you grow older. There's a number in red on the slide that says, in New York, I think it was, they reported that one case in every 24 is reported. And I know the national figure is 1 in 10. Well, Deb just told me that last year, the state of Rhode Island had 4,000 reports of elder abuse. If you really take that number and multiply it by 10, that's a lot of people who have not been identified or reported.
That'd be 40,000 people. And that's why when, I say in the beginning of the show, like, share this information out, people need it. That, I don't think a lot of lay people understand that realistically it's 40,000, and even that may be an undercount. And
Absolutely.
so it's important that people share this information. So I keep interrupting your PowerPoint, so we can go back to the PowerPoint. Sorry.
Yes, would you go back to that?
There we go.
I just wanted to say that it's a silent epidemic because elders don't report because they're afraid. They're afraid of not being believed. They're afraid of losing independence. They're afraid that someone's going to put them away. They're afraid they're going to lose the only caregiver they have, who might be the abuser. And they're afraid of retaliation. And the sad part also is that we don't report. The general public, we don't report. And that's because we don't necessarily know what we're looking at. When we see it, we don't know what it is. Or because they're older, it's just the way of life. We don't have the proper training as providers. We don't understand the signs. And many times people don't know how to report. Oftentimes when people ask me what I do and what kind of work I do, and I talk about abused elders, many people look at me and say, "What do you mean?" Like, what do you mean? Well, then I go through it and, people are stunned because people don't really see it at all.
Or they see it and they don't know what to do about it. Like a lot of people maybe recognize that first in the month, the checks come in and, Sally's son always visits on the
What a
first of the
good,
month.
what a good son.
Oh, what a good boy. And they go out to lunch and it's great. And she loves it because she loves her boy. But, well, you know, he did tell her that he's got that awful ex-wife who's going to put him in jail for child support and he needs his cell phone. So, of course, Sally had to give him her check.
Yeah.
And then he disappears.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you talk about the son, because when you look at statistically who number one is the number one abuser, it's the daughter, then the son, then the spouse. So that's even more astounding, because people say to me, how can kids do that? But kids do that. They do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, elder abuse is the mistreatment of older adults. That's what elder abuse is. But it can be physical. It can be all of the things that you're seeing. It causes pain and injury. It's pushing, it's shoving, it's sexual. Now, who could believe that would happen to an older person? But it does. It does. And they can't defend themselves in most times.
I think one of the things when we also think about non-consensual sexual contact, things like that, are unfortunately, well, I could think of an expletive for the description, but the folks who film.
Yes, pornography.
Yeah, and the folks who are filming individuals maybe undressed, maybe in a way to humiliate because someone has been incontinent, things like that. Yeah, those,
Yeah.
I'll say jerks.
Yeah. Well, you know, the basis for the abuse is control, power, and control. So these things happen to really take control of a person. You wear them down, you frighten them enough. That's, you know, the psychological mistreatment. You know, the person, uh, the husband who screams at his older wife, they're in their 80s and he screams and, you know, really diminishes her. And people say, oh, that's been going on all their lives. Doesn't mean it's okay. And it doesn't mean it's not having its medical effect on the person, and that person's quality of life is in the pits, and they don't have to be. They have a right not to be abused.
So even if it was something that it's, oh, Sally and Bob have always been that way, they fight. It's never too late to get out and to get to a safe spot.
Absolutely.
It's never too late to get out.
Yes. I know of an incident where it was probably more cultural, but they're in their 80s, and the physical abuse was just too much, and she divorced her husband. So it happens, given the freedom to do that, given the help, the support to do that. When we talk about neglect, I'm not talking about self-neglect. Many people look at, hoarding, or people who don't take care of themselves. They themselves don't take their medicines. We're not talking about self-neglect here. We're talking about neglect where a caregiver may be responsible for giving a person medicine and doesn't, or doesn't feed somebody, doesn't bathe somebody. It's that kind of intentional neglect on the part of somebody else. And then, of course, the financial exploitation, stealing. It happens all the time. But I think the important fact to remember is that people usually are not just abused in one way.
Yeah, and when you think about neglect and not giving medication, it could be something that can go in two directions around medication. It can be, I'm taking your medication because I want that pain pill for myself or whatever. Or it could be the reverse. Dad, just take these pills. I have to go to work. You'll sleep all day. And then you're not going to have to get up to go to the bathroom, and you're not going to need to eat. And, like, these are some of the real life scenarios that are happening, and when you're talking about financial abuse, I mean, how many times do we get an email saying, oh yeah, for $9.99, we'll sweep your computer for viruses, or, you get that crazy call, your social security number is being suspended for trafficking at the border, or just straight simply, if you don't write the check out, you can't see the grandkids.
Right. Or it's the son or daughter who shows up every check day with their handout and they take all the cash. So, and usually by the time it gets to financial exploitation, all of these other kinds of abuses have happened. Because again, it's power and control. It's taking a hold of somebody's free will.
Yep.
Could I have the next slide?
Bring that PowerPoint back up. So see, when you run live, sometimes things happen.
She left. She disappeared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
Oh,
there we go. There we've got the PowerPoint.
She is not at the moment.
All right. So
hopefully she gets back in relatively easily.
Exactly. So in the meantime, I'm going to read some of her signs. And Ben, I don't know if you maybe want to try to give her a call at the office.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. So some of the signs of elder abuse, sometimes it's one of those things, you know it when you see it, but describing it might not be as easy as you would think. So some of the signs are those unexplained injuries or bruises, the ones that look like handprints, bruises, burns, cigarette burns, things like that. That extra fear is someone always keyed up and worried about what their son's going to say, what their daughter's going to say. Hey, my friend Jeanne is back. So I was just discussing this slide, and about what is the excessive fears, that withdrawal, the agitation, and I'll let you take it from there. It's the beauty of live streaming is, these things happen.
Well, some of us can manage well and some of us can't.
And you came right back on. So you are one who can manage well.
Just going over some of the signs, I think in looking at unexplained injuries and bruises, I think the most typical response from an elder is, I've fallen. And, but doctors can tell whether that's the truth or not, depending upon where the bruise is or the break. But elders tend to hide it by saying, I've fallen. But you see a change in behavior, change in personality. Or suddenly they're getting bills in the mail. The electricity bill hasn't been paid and they don't know why. And they don't know their own personal finances because somebody has taken control. And creating a dependency on the caregiver, a total dependency. Again, they give over control and they have no information. They're left in the dark. When someone else is handling the money, that can really create problems for an elder. And then, of course, the unauthorized use of funds, the credit cards, the bank accounts, and so on. So those are signs, and there are many, many more. Many more. Could I have the next slide, please? Okay. Just what I'd like to do by the end of this is just to give people a sense of what the problem looks like. And, really, it's important to pay attention. How people can protect themselves, people like me, again, I'm older. is to tell somebody. Tell your friend, tell your priest, tell somebody if it's happening to you. When you go to the doctor, talk to your doctor. They know what to do. Don't
I,
give money away. Yes.
I just wanted to say, I think it's something that's really important for our medical community as a whole. And I bring this up actually at my own PCP. Regardless of age, I think it's important for the PCP, for your doctor, to actually spend time in the room with you alone, because many times the abuser is so set on controlling that they're going to go into the doctor, and when that senior says or tries to say, something's not right, the abuser can say, well, they're not quite right, when in reality they are. But the same is also true for younger victims of domestic violence, that that time that doctor spends, it might only be 10 minutes in that room, but that might be the victim's only opportunity to report and say that they need help. So you were saying, it is so important to tell someone. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. It
Yeah.
really is important. And the point about speaking to the elder alone is absolutely necessary. The moment you walk into a situation and someone is with the senior and answers all of the questions, that's a red flag. If a senior is not allowed, unless certainly the senior has lost capacity.
And even then, sometimes, there are individuals who, for a multitude of reasons, may have some cognitive impairment, but it doesn't mean that they're automatically not reporting accurately. They may very well be reporting accurately, and or their behavior might be reporting accurately, even if their words can't.
Yes. And, that's another reason why elder abuse isn't reported, because of people's inability to communicate it. Um, so, around the financial abuse, certainly don't give your credit cards, social security numbers. Um, don't let people take control of your finances and not tell you what's going on. I think from my experience, I would say, and I say it to my family and friends, do not sign documents. Do not sign away your life. People say, oh, just in case, let me be the power of attorney. Well, I don't think everyone understands that in some cases that means you don't have any rights at all. Put me on your bank account, it will be easier. Well, when you do that, that other person owns your money. You can't take it back. They can take, and your
And it's
deed, the deeds to your house. Well, I put my son on the deed in case, because I'm owned, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not always a good thing to do. So that when you're asked to sign those kinds of documents, you really need to talk to somebody before you do that, because it's hard. You can't get your money back once you give it to somebody in your bank account. So that's really something that people, really older people, need to learn about. Um, and then don't live with someone who has a history of violent behavior. And that's easier said than done, especially when it's a family member and it's a son who has mental health issues. You don't want to leave him out on the street, blah, 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 blah. But if you know and if you can, you shouldn't put yourself into that situation. Could we have the next slide? Thank you. And as family members and as friends, there are things that we could do to help. If you know of somebody who's isolated, who's older, and might need someone to talk to, visit them and visit them often. And when you do, really observe, is there food in the refrigerator? Are they clean? Where do they spend their time? Listen to what they say, really listen. And again, going back to the fact that you should talk to elders in private. You should have conversations with people in private and not have someone looming over their shoulder. Visit them and not anyone else. And if you think they need help, find resources, maybe not necessarily around abuse, but around other kinds of things, caregivers, friendly visitors, or food banks kind of stuff. Search out resources, ask somebody to go in and visit them, and keep an ongoing view of the individual. But most important, if you see something that looks wrong, report it. You don't have to know that it's elder abuse. That's not our role. Our role is that if we see something, we need to report it. Could you go to the next slide?
A question came on in regards to the financial. What about setting up a trust? Is that something that a senior should do that is protective for their assets, or could that also be something that could be set up to take away their rights?
Well, I have a trust, and the trust says when the actions within the trust take place. So
Got it.
on my death, or the trust, you give the instructions into the trust, the time, that kind of thing. So yes, I would work with an attorney around the trust. I have one. So the question about elder abuse, is it a crime? And yes, it is. It's an absolute crime. And people, just like child abuse, when you see it, when you think it's happening, you must report. You must report. The law says that older Rhode Islands are protected. It says that older Rhode Islands have a right to be free of abuse. And it says that every citizen, not just professionals, every citizen has the responsibility to report it. So go to the next slide, please. So this is how you report. There are a couple of things I'd like to say about reporting. First of all, you only report because you suspect. It's not your job to investigate or to determine.
Can you say that again? Because I think people a lot of times feel like they have to know for sure and have evidence before they call. So could you say that again?
Yes. You must report. However, you report suspected abuse. You are not, I am not trained to investigate or to make the determination that it is abuse. Our role is that if we think something is wrong, we report it. We have the ability to report it anonymously. We don't have to give our name. We can make that phone call, give the information, and we don't have to give our name if we're afraid that there'll be repercussions or that we've made a mistake. However, if you do report, you cannot expect that the Office of Healthy Aging will ever get back to you about the results of their investigation. Once you make a report, it becomes confidential under the law. So you may make a report and you may not see a change or anything happening. It doesn't mean that it's not. It may mean that what they've investigated doesn't play out as abuse, and that maybe the individual needs other services. But don't be discouraged. And if you continue to be worried, make the report again. You don't have to make it once. You can make it 100 times. Just make the report. And for organizations, you may be contacted if you make a referral and give information, because the investigation may want your information or more information. But as an organization, you're not going to get feedback either in terms of the results because of confidentiality. So
when someone calls that number 4620555, if they get an answering machine,
they do.
They can leave their name and number, and somebody will call them back.
Yes, or they can make an anonymous referral by just giving, the name and address of the older person and a description of the situation. There is also the ability to make a report, a more formal report, on the Office of Healthy Aging website. I think people find that a little bit more difficult. First of all, to locate the form, but also it asks a lot of questions that an organization, a service provider might know, and not the neighbor. So you can go to the website, OHA website, and find that form, or you can make the referral.
So, okay, I'm not on mute. So we've talked about a lot of things, and when it comes to the Haven, I know that you guys have the grant to do the trainings for professionals, for the police, the fire, the case management. If someone watching is with one of the case management agencies or the police or fire department, how do they reach you if they want to participate?
That's a good question, because the one thing I didn't do was to put the Haven's phone number up. But I'm actually I have to look at my phone number.
Is your phone number 244-5473?
73. That's my, I never call myself.
And and I'm thinking too, like post-COVID, you're probably, just getting used to using the work phone from the home phone.
Right. And everything is on the computer now.
So. And you're doing wonderful with that. So the other thing with the Haven, say a victim has come forward and they need shelter, but when it comes to recovering from being, when you're a survivor of abuse, there are many steps along the way before you're safe. So are there people at the Haven who would say, go with a victim to Kent County Courthouse or the Garrahy building to fill out restraining orders and go before the judge? Is there someone who will accompany them, either from a legal capacity or get them connected for someone legally, or just simply to hold their hand, because that is a really scary thing to do?
We do all of that. We have been working with some clients for years because the legal process takes that long. So, we help people to be informed about what's happening in the legal system. We help prepare people with victim statements. We accompany them to court or accompany them to parole hearing, so that we do the legal advocacy as well. And as I said, the legal system takes a long time, so that our involvement with the client, with the older person, might go on for years. we even had one of our clients move out of state. But because the legal stuff is still in Rhode Island, we continue to work with that person, even though they're
So that is, I think, something really important, that if someone may be watching and this may be their opportunity to get the knowledge they need to make the steps to get out of an abusive situation. And I don't mean this in any disparaging way towards these organizations, but when you're older, your needs may be very different than what many of the domestic violence providers are accustomed to. You're not looking perhaps for childcare. You're not looking for workforce training.
And they're not able to cook meals
right
for the house and do chores.
Right. And so I think that's one of the things that is beautiful about what the Haven offers is, if you have a mobility impairment, if you're using
accessible.
Yeah. And I don't mean, obviously if someone is in a situation and you're a younger individual and not really appropriate for the Haven services, please reach out, because there is help available for domestic violence victims.
Absolutely.
And being safe is something that we should all be able to experience in our everyday life. So when people need help, they can reach out to you at the 244-5473.
Yes.
If somebody suspects elder abuse, what was the number that they should call?
They should call 462-0555.
Okay. And that's the Office of Healthy Aging. And we are all legally responsible for making those reports when we have suspicion. We don't have to be, Inspector Clouseau and find the evidence, and not our job.
No.
And is there something, Carrie Lynn had a good question. If someone maybe doesn't want to go to the housing availabilities through the Haven, is there something in place for a family or a neighbor to sort of be a foster type family for the elder until a plan is put in place for that elder?
That's a question that that's a question we ask before we even bring someone into the shelter. Is there some place you can go? Do you have family? Do you have friends? Because again, we're not an emergency shelter. It takes a couple of days for us to find a bed and to go through the process of it, because it's a nursing long-term care. There's an admittance process. So we always ask that question. Is there a payment for that in any way? No.
So you can, if somebody, especially if you've been financially abused and you have no access to financial resources, it's not like to go into the Haven, you need to pay X amount of dollars.
No, we do not charge through our VOCA grant. We have money where we're able to pay a bed night to the nursing homes, but it's not their full cost. It's a limited amount of money. But when we began in 2009, we had no money, and nursing homes did it out of the goodness of their hearts. So now we give them a token payment. I just want to say about the Haven as well. We always think about abuse being female, and in domestic violence, it's generally the female. But in elder abuse, we serve males and females over the age of 60 who have been referred by the Adult Protective Service department, or we report that, and then they investigate the abuse. So they need to be a person who's been abused. So, but I just wanted to say that we oftentimes have as many male referrals as we do female referrals.
And research shows that men who have been victims have different needs than women. And I think that that's really important. I'm really glad that you brought that up, that it does impact men as well. And there's a lot of different moving pieces to that. So is the Haven a nonprofit?
We're a nonprofit.
And
Right now, the Haven is funded through federal money, primarily. So, but we are a program of the St. Elizabeth community, and people may know that name because they run nursing homes, assisted living, senior housing, adult day service.
so if somebody wanted to support the work that the Haven is doing, can they make a donation? Do you need a volunteer? Do you have any events coming up?
Well, at this point, life is different. They
Amen to
can
that.
make a donation. They can make it to the through the St. Elizabeth community, the Haven program. So donations are welcomed. We have at this point we're not involving volunteers because our activities have been restricted very much. We don't see clients here. We will meet people in the community, not in the abusive situation, or we do it certainly by telephone, and we certainly work with them once they're in our facility. But right now, we actually have never had people come to the office. We go to them. And oftentimes the emergency room. If someone were to ask me or call me and say, I have someone who's really unsafe and no place to go, and we're trying to find a shelter bed, I would refer them to the emergency room where they should be worked up as an elder abuse case. And what happens at that point is the emergency room will call APS and bring them in so that hopefully when they're discharged, they come into the shelter or they go into a respite situation, which buys time. It's not easy to make all of these arrangements. So really to buy time to keep the elder safe, while all of us are working through what we can do, to help the individual. It's very complicated work. One elder that we work with, I hate to use the word case, one elder that we worked with, we brought a team of 10 organizations together, 10, in order to move her from a dangerous situation into safety and a permanent residence. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort on the part of many, many people.
And it is a blessing that the Haven exists and has the capacity to engage 10 organizations for the safety of one individual. But whatever that takes to make that one individual safe is something that must be done and is so incredibly important and valuable. And you're right. So, nothing happens immediately and the person's safety is first. So if it is a crisis of someone is, in imminent danger, call 911, of course.
Absolutely.
If you are hearing that abusive situation take place, maybe it's your neighbor's house, maybe, you're in an apartment building and you're hearing it, call the police. If necessary, they can transport the person to the hospital. The hospital can do a full evaluation to make sure that that person, the victim is going to be physically okay, get the treatment that they need. And the hospital would then notify the Office of Healthy Aging. They'd call the Adult Protective Services Unit. And along the way, the Haven would be notified, and you can start the process to ensure that that individual can remain safe as they go forward in life. And it's never too late to reach out and get help.
Yeah. In closing, what I would say, and it's a very sad thought, but just think You don't want to be in a position where you knew something was going on, didn't do anything about it, and the end result was horrific. You don't want that on your conscience. Just don't. It doesn't hurt that if you think someone is being hurt, just make the phone call.
Yes. So just make the call, all of us. And I think, Jeanne, you're right. This is a great place to end. You don't want to be the one who said, yeah, I knew something was going on, but I didn't say anything.
Right.
Jeanne, thank you so much for coming on today and talking
Thank
about the
you for the
Haven.
opportunity. Thank you very much. And good life for everyone.
And to you as well, my friend.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So as you see, this was pretty long today, but super important. And I really hope that folks share this video out. This is something that if you're older, it's really important that you know what abuse is, what it looks like, and that there's help available, and that it is never, ever too late to get out of the situation. If you're younger, keep in mind that the systems and processes that get put in place now are the ones that can maybe one day protect you from being the victim. We are all in this life together, my friends. We got to row the boat in the same direction. If you see something, say something. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great day.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.